My name is James. I'm 38 years old and I live in Atlanta, Georgia. I've been a personal trainer for the last 12 years and I've worked with all kinds of clients, athletes, business executives, people trying to get their lives back on track. But I'd never experienced anything like what happened when she walked through that gym door. Let me start from the beginning. I grew up in a rough part of Atlanta, East Atlanta. My mother was a nurse, worked double shifts most nights just to keep a roof over our heads. My father wasn't around much. Addiction took him before I was old enough to really know him, so it was my mom and me. She was my hero, still is. She taught me everything about hard work, about showing up even when you're exhausted, about treating people with respect no matter what. I didn't have much as a kid, but I had her. When I was 16, I discovered fitness. It started as a way to stay out of trouble, honestly. The streets in my neighborhood had a way of pulling you in if you weren't careful, but the gym became my escape, my sanctuary. I'd spend hours there after school, lifting weights, running on the treadmill, just moving my body and clearing my head. There was something pure about it. No politics, no judgment. Just you and the iron, just effort and results. By the time I graduated high school, I knew I wanted to do this for a living. I got certified as a personal trainer, worked my way up from the ground floor at different gyms, and eventually opened my own place about 5 years ago. It's called Rise Up Fitness, small operation, intimate. I work with maybe 20 clients at a time and I know all of them personally. I know their stories, their struggles. That's the kind of trainer I wanted to be. Someone who understands that fitness isn't just about the body, it's about the mind, the spirit, everything. My gym had built a solid reputation in Atlanta. Nothing fancy. No Instagram influencer culture. Just real people doing real work. Until about 2 months before everything changed, one of my trainers, Deshaun, came to me with a situation. We were in my office and he had this look on his face, amused, but also like he was trying not to laugh. "James," he said, "we got a referral, new client, high profile. Willing to pay premium rates." I nodded. We'd had referrals before. "The catch?" I asked, because there was always a catch. "She's difficult," Deshaun said, choosing his words carefully. 3 trainers already quit, 2 from our gym, 1 from across town. I raised an eyebrow. Difficult how? Demanding, dismissive. Apparently she's got a real attitude. Real hostile energy, he paused, and she specifically requested you. My gut tightened. I didn't know why me. I've never met this woman. "I know," Deshaun said. He was definitely trying not to smile now, which is why I think it's funny that she asked for you by name. Something about that nagged at me, but I let it go. "What's her name?" I asked. Deshaun checked his phone. Simone Washington. The name didn't mean anything to me, not immediately, but there was something there, just at the edge of my memory. Something I couldn't quite grab. "When's the first session?" I asked. "Monday morning, 7 a.m., I nodded. "All right, I'll take her on," Deshaun grinned. "I was hoping you'd say that. Honestly, I think the whole thing might be a setup, a test or something, but either way, this should be interesting." He left my office and I sat there thinking about that name, Simone Washington. Over the weekend, I found myself thinking about it more than I should have. There was something pulling at me, some memory I couldn't access. I almost looked her up online, but something stopped me. I wanted to go into this fresh. No preconceptions. Just meet her and do my job. Monday morning came. I was at the gym by 6:30, getting everything set up for the 7 a.m. session. I had a good feeling about it, actually. Despite what Deshaun had said, I figured I could work with anyone. I'd always been good at connecting with people, finding the common ground, understanding why they were really there beneath the surface. At exactly 7 a.m. she walked in, and the world stopped. She was tall, 5'10", maybe 5'11". Athletic build, though she carried some extra weight she was clearly unhappy about. Dark skin, beautiful, wearing expensive workout gear and a designer bag, but it was her face that stopped me cold. Her eyes, I knew those eyes. After all these years, I knew those eyes. "Simone," I said, and my voice came out different than I intended. She turned to look at me, and there was something sharp in her expression, something defensive. "That's me," she said coolly. And that's when everything came rushing back. 13 years. Middle school. A girl named Simone who'd been my first real love. Simone Washington had been my best friend in 9th grade. We were inseparable. We'd sit together at lunch, walk home from school together, talk on the phone until midnight. She was smart, funny, kind. She'd seen me at my worst, struggling with my father's addiction, worried about money, worried about my future. And she never once made me feel less than. We were just kids trying to figure out the world. And then one day her family moved. Her father had gotten a job opportunity in New York. Suddenly, she was gone. I remember that day so clearly. Saying goodbye at school, her promising we'd stay in touch, us exchanging phone numbers and email addresses, but life happened. I got caught up in school. She got caught up in her new life. The calls became less frequent, the emails stopped, and eventually she just became a memory, a good memory, but a memory nonetheless. Now she was standing in my gym and I was looking at her like I'd seen a ghost. "Do I know you?" she asked, and there was a tone in her voice, guarded, suspicious. I recovered. Put on my professional mask. "No," I said. "I'm James. I'll be training you. Why don't we get started?" She studied me for a moment and I could see her trying to place me. But then she shook her head. "Fine, let's do this." For the first 30 minutes of that session, I was off my game. I couldn't focus. I kept catching myself staring at her, and every time I'd have to pull my attention back to what we were supposed to be doing. She noticed. Of course she noticed. "You good?" she asked at one point, irritation in her voice. "Yeah," I said quickly. "Just adjusting to your form, let's try this again." But I was lying, nothing about me was good. My brain was scrambling. This was Simone, my Simone, except she wasn't my Simone anymore. She was someone else entirely. By the end of the session, I could feel the tension between us. She was frustrated, I was confused, and there was something else underneath it all, something I couldn't name. "Same time tomorrow?" I asked. "I guess," she said, not meeting my eyes. "If you can actually focus." She left without another word. After she was gone, I went to my office and just sat there for a long time. I didn't look her up online. I promised myself I wouldn't. But that night I broke that promise. What I found shocked me. Simone Washington was successful, really successful. She was a corporate attorney, high-powered firm. Multiple cases featured in major publications. She'd made a name for herself. But there were other articles too, divorce proceedings, a messy custody battle over her daughter, a DUI arrest 3 years ago, photos of her looking tired, angry, trapped, the trajectory of a person who had everything on paper but was falling apart in reality. The next morning she showed up again, and this time I could see past the polished exterior. I could see the pain, the exhaustion, the person underneath who was drowning. During the session, I made a decision. I stopped treating her like just another client. I started treating her like what she was, someone who was struggling, someone who needed help. "You're carrying a lot," I said at one point when we were working through some core exercises. She didn't respond, just kept doing the reps. "I'm serious," I continued. "It's not just physical tension, it's emotional, mental." She stopped mid-rep, looked at me with fire in her eyes. "I didn't hire you to be my therapist," she snapped. "I hired you to get me in shape." "I know," I said calmly, "but I can't do my job if you don't do yours." "My job," she scoffed. "My job is to defend clients, win cases, make money. All things I'm very good at, by the way." "But you hate it," I said quietly. She stared at me. "You don't know anything about me." "Maybe not," I said, "but I know what unhappy looks like." "And you're unhappy, Simone, really unhappy." For a second I thought she was going to walk out. Her jaw clenched, her fists clenched, her whole body went rigid, but then something cracked. "Just a little. Can we just work out?" she said, her voice smaller than before. "Yeah," I said, "we can." But as the session continued, I started to remember who she used to be. And I started to realize who she'd become. And I started to understand that maybe, just maybe, I was supposed to help her find her way back. For the next week, we fell into a routine. Simone would come in at 7 a.m., we'd work out, she'd leave. Minimal conversation, just effort, but I was watching her, really watching her. And I started to notice small things. The way her shoulders relaxed a little more each day. The way she smiled, just barely, when she hit a new personal record. The way she'd sometimes linger after the session, like she didn't want to go back to whatever was waiting for her outside. On the 8th day, something shifted. We were doing a heavy leg day and she was pushing herself hard, maybe too hard. At one point she lost her balance on a squat and I caught her, my hands on her waist, her back against my chest. And in that moment something passed between us. Recognition, history, connection. She pulled away quickly, but I saw her hands shaking. "You okay?" I asked. She didn't answer right away. Just stood there breathing hard. "Why are you being so nice to me?" she finally asked. The question caught me off guard. "What do you mean?" "You've been different since day one," she said, turning to face me. "You're treating me like you care, like you know me, but you don't." "You can't." I made a decision in that moment. I decided to tell her the truth. "Sit down," I said, gesturing to the bench. She sat. I sat next to her. "My name is James Mitchell," I said quietly. 13 years ago I lived in Atlanta, East Atlanta, and I had a best friend named Simone Washington. She was the smartest, funniest, kindest person I knew. And then her family moved to New York. Simone's eyes went wide. "Wait," she started. "I know you don't remember me," I continued. "Or maybe you do, but it doesn't matter because it was so long ago. But I remember you. I remember when you used to make me laugh even when my dad was in one of his episodes. I remember when you told me I could be anything if I worked hard enough. I remember when you made me believe in myself when I didn't believe in anything." She was staring at me now, her eyes filling with tears. "James Mitchell," she whispered. "From East Atlanta Middle." "Yeah," I said, "that's me." She covered her mouth, and then she started crying, really crying, not the polished corporate attorney crying, but deep, soul-level crying. The kind that comes from somewhere broken inside. I didn't touch her. I just sat there and let her cry. After a few minutes, she wiped her face. "I'm sorry," she said. "I remember you, I do. It's been so long and you look so different, and she trailed off. "I don't even recognize myself anymore," she finished quietly. "What happened?" I asked gently. "Life," she said. "Everything I thought I wanted. The good grades, the prestigious university, the law degree, the big firm, the corner office. I got all of it, and none of it made me happy. None of it was worth what I had to sacrifice to get it." She looked at me. "My daughter is 12 now. She barely speaks to me. I missed her childhood fighting for cases that didn't matter. My marriage ended because I was never home. And my body, I looked in the mirror one day and didn't recognize the person staring back. I listened without interrupting. I started training with different people, hoping that if I just fixed my body, everything else would follow," she continued. "But everyone just made it worse. They just pushed harder like that was the answer. Like if I could just be stronger, prettier, more put together, then I'd figure out why I feel so empty inside." She looked at me again. "And then you came along and you actually looked at me. Like you saw me. Not the lawyer, not the body, just me." I swallowed hard. "That's because I know you," I said. "The real you. The one you've been hiding underneath all of this." "I don't know how to find her again," Simone said, her voice breaking. "I think I lost her somewhere along the way." "You didn't lose her," I said. "She's still in there, she's just scared, tired, and she needs help finding her way home." Something shifted in that moment. It wasn't romantic. Not yet. It was deeper than that. It was recognition. A door opening in both of our chests that had been locked for 13 years. "What do you want to do?" I asked her. Simone was quiet for a long time. Then she said, "I want to remember who I was. And I want to figure out who I want to be." "Then that's what we'll work on," I said, "together." And that's when I knew this wasn't just about personal training anymore. This was about restoration. And it was going to change both of our lives. Over the next 3 months, Simone came to the gym 6 days a week, and we did way more than train. We talked, really talked. She'd tell me about her cases, about her daughter, about the guilt that woke her up at 3 in the morning. And I'd listen. I'd share my own struggles, my fears about whether my gym would make it, my loneliness, my regrets about losing her all those years ago. The workouts became almost secondary. They were the framework, but the real work was happening on a deeper level. Slowly, I started to see her transform. Not physically, though she did get stronger. Mentally, spiritually, she started making changes, small ones at first. She negotiated with her firm to work 4 days a week instead of 6. She started having dinner with her daughter twice a week. No phones, no work talk, just being present. One day she came to a session and told me she'd started therapy. "I realized I can't do this alone," she said. "I can't fix myself by just working harder and pushing through." "That's wisdom," I said. "That's actually the hardest lesson to learn," she smiled, a real smile. "I learned it from a friend." About 4 months into her training, Simone's daughter came to the gym. Her name was Maya. She was 12, tall like her mother with Simone's eyes. She was shy at first, standoffish, but as we talked, she started to open up. Turns out Maya had wanted to get into fitness but felt like it would be uncool. Simone asked if I could show her a few things. Of course, I said yes. So Maya started coming with her mother, and watching them train together, watching them laugh together, watching Simone actually be present with her daughter. That was the real transformation. One evening, after a session where Simone and Maya had worked out together, Simone asked if we could talk privately. We sat in my office. "I owe you something," she said. "You don't owe me anything," I replied. "Yes, I do," she insisted. "I owe you an apology for disappearing, for not staying in touch, for letting someone who meant so much to me just fade away." "Simone, let me finish," she said. "I was a coward back then. I got to New York and I wanted to fit in so badly. I wanted to be this perfect student, and I thought leaving my past behind would help me do that. So I cut ties with everyone who reminded me of who I used to be, including you." Tears were running down her face. "But you were the best part of who I used to be. You made me brave. You made me believe in myself." And I threw that away. I reached over and took her hand. "You're here now," I said. "That's what matters." "But I lost 13 years," she said. 13 years of knowing you, of having you in my life. I can't get that back." "No," I said, "but we can build something new, starting right now." She squeezed my hand. "I'd like that." Over the next few weeks, something changed between us. It wasn't sudden. It was gradual, natural. One day we'd finished a session, and instead of her leaving, we went out for coffee. Then dinner. Then long walks where we'd talk about everything, about our dreams, our fears, our hopes for the future. And I realized I was falling in love with her. Not with the memory of who she used to be, but with who she was becoming. And one night, about 6 months into her training, she told me something that made everything make sense. "You know what's funny?" she said. "We were sitting on my apartment balcony looking out over Atlanta." "What?" "When I first came to you, my assistant told me to look you up, to research you before our first session. And I recognized your name, James Mitchell, and I remembered you, really remembered you, the middle school best friend. The guy who believed in me when I didn't believe in myself." I turned to her. "Why didn't you say anything?" "Because," she said, "I was ashamed. I thought that if you remembered me, You'd remember the girl I used to be, and I didn't want you to compare her to what I'd become. I wanted to start fresh. I wanted to earn your respect as the person I am now, not the person I was then." She paused. "And then you told me who you were, and I realized that you'd been carrying me in your heart all those years. Even when I forgot about you, you remembered. You saw the best in me even when I couldn't see it myself. That's what love does," I said quietly. She looked at me. "Is that what this is? Love?" I reached over and took her face in my hands. 13 years ago, you were my best friend. You helped shape who I became, and now I'm falling in love with who you're becoming. So yeah, I think that's love." And when I kissed her, it felt like coming home, like every moment we'd spent apart had been leading to this, to us, together. A year after Simone first walked through the doors of Rise Up Fitness, everything had changed. She'd left the corporate law firm and started her own practice, taking on cases that actually mattered to her. Social justice cases, community work, things that fed her soul instead of draining it. She'd rebuilt her relationship with Maya. They were genuinely close now, and she and we'd become partners. Not just romantic partners, though that too. We were partners in the truest sense. Building something together, supporting each other, growing together. 6 months ago, I asked her to marry me. I did it at the gym, actually, after we finished a training session. Everyone from the gym was there. Maya, my mother, Deshawn, all our friends. And when Simone said yes, the whole place erupted. My mother pulled me aside afterward and told me something I'll never forget. "She's the girl you told me about," my mother said. "The one from middle school. The one you wondered about sometimes." I nodded. "How did you?" "Because I raised you," my mother said, smiling. "I know when you care about someone. And I'm so glad you found your way back to each other." The wedding is next month. Small ceremony. Just people we love, nothing fancy, just real, just us. Deshawn recently told me that he'd actually orchestrated the whole thing. That when Simone's people reached out looking for a trainer, he'd specifically recommended me. That he'd told her my name, hoping she'd recognize it. I asked him why. "Because sometimes," he said, "people need to be reminded of who they really are. And sometimes, that reminder comes in the form of someone who always saw them clearly." I think about that a lot now, about how I almost walked past that moment. How I could have trained Simone like any other client, how we could have gone through the motions and never really connected. But something made me pay attention. Something made me look deeper. Something made me choose to see her, not the successful attorney, not the struggling mother, just Simone, the girl I knew, the woman she was becoming, and that made all the difference. The truth that I've learned through all of this is that life doesn't just happen to you. You have choices in every moment. You can walk past people, or you can stop and really see them. You can judge them for their struggles, or you can extend kindness and understanding. You can give up on people, or you can believe in them even when they don't believe in themselves. 13 years ago, Simone believed in me when I didn't have much else. Now I get to spend the rest of my life believing in her, and in some beautiful, unexpected way, that's come full circle. That day she walked into my gym wasn't just about getting her in shape. It was about both of us remembering who we really were. It was about second chances. It was about the power of someone seeing you clearly and refusing to look away. If I'm being honest, I think we've all got that power inside us. The power to transform someone's life by truly seeing them, by believing in them, by choosing to look deeper. The question is, what are we going to do with it? For me, the answer is standing right there in a wedding dress, waiting to walk down the aisle.